I ain't got nothing. Want me to make you something?
Yes.
Live?
We live.
Hey, guys.
Hey. Well, nobody's here yet.
Nobody's here. Hey. Shit.
Well, go give me a cup. Put my glass. So it's Tuesday. It's Perspective with the Paulings. For I Choose Me hashtag. No more excuses. Every first Tuesday is Perspective with the Paulings. And so I'm going to give some time for some people to tune in. We were running late too, so. Hey, Nick. Hey, Boo. Hey, Sapphire. Hey, Nicole. Today we're talking about communication. So I'm hoping that you guys are going to participate today when we're talking about communication. Rondell found this song, right? Yes, thumbs up for communicating. Thumbs up for being a part of the conversation. Thumbs up for having perspective with the Paulings. Hey! I try so very hard to keep my love. But anyway, I'm so excited, you guys. You know the conference is coming up. Woo! Waiting on Rondell. He's coming. He's coming. Hey, Latifa. Oh, love your video today. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Check out Latifa's video. She stepped out in her gift and she decided to do her little motivational in her video today. It was so good for her first time. It was great. Tune in. I got it posted on the page, so you can tune in to Latifa. Got her video on the page, so please check her out. Support one another. Come on, you guys. We got to support one another. It don't cost you nothing to share. So not only look at it, but share it with somebody. So just hit that button, share. You don't even got to like it. Just share it. How about that? That's my new word. Just share it. He's really good. You welcome, baby. But yes, but you know the motto is I pledge to embrace who I am today, love who I was yesterday, and inspire who I will become tomorrow. And so at the end of the day, that's what the journey is all about. It's about loving yourself from right where you are, knowing that you are enough, and sitting there to celebrate that it's time for you to walk in your gift and in your purpose. And so if you don't get to know yourself, thank you, baby. If you don't get to know yourself and love yourself, then how can you walk in your gift and in your purpose? And so, but today, for our thing, we're going to be talking about communication. So we're going to turn the music off. Rondell is here. Hey, say hi.
Hi. Hi. Hi, everyone.
So anyway, so today we are...
Such a pleasure to be here with this beautiful... I can't say young. This beautiful young lady.
You can say young lady. I'm still a young lady, y'all.
30 is the new 20s.
It is. It really is. Don't it look like 30 is the new 20? Yes.
Yes.
So today we decided we're going to talk about communication. And so before we go any further, I'm going to start with the definition. Communication, the imparting or exchanging of information or news. And the second definition is means of connection between people or places in particular. Now, Rondell thought that communication would be a perfect topic for our relationship perspective with the Paulings today. And so I'm going to let him start on what he means by communication and why that's so important in relationships.
I mean, it's... Communication is the key to everything. It's the key to successful relationships, whether they be business, personal, even finance. If you can't communicate properly with people in different roles in your life, then life can become complicated. For example, you know you're going to be late this morning. You got to go to work. You know you're going to be late. You need to call your job and say, yeah, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. Right. That's the way of communication. You just show up late, it can become an issue if you don't communicate with your job. You need a day off. If you don't communicate that, it can become an issue at your job. You're going to be late coming home, you don't communicate with your wife or your husband, that can be a potential problem. It's all about communication, man. You can't do nothing. You can't be successful in nothing without proper communication in place.
And I think the dilemma in relationships as adults with communication is that ability to feel like you're having to basically explain yourself to someone. And so I think the breakdown in relationships, whether you're the mate, your spouse, your significant other, or family or friends, communication tends to break down when we don't feel like we have to explain ourselves, because sometimes communication comes off as me basically trying to tell you what this means, or me basically trying to get you to understand my perspective in a way, right?
Yeah.
And so when we communicate with each other, if we don't speak the same language, if we don't have the same values, if we don't have the same understanding, somewhere the communication gets lost in the relationships. And so if you're in relationships where you're not understanding what this person is meaning, or you don't feel like you're in a good place because they don't get you, it's because of your lack of communication. It's because you or the other person don't see the respect in each other to be able to clarify what it is you want or what it is you mean by whatever it is you're saying.
No, I wouldn't say necessarily that. You cannot. You can have respect for someone and still not communicate properly. Like sometimes people will refrain from saying things or doing things because they don't want to hurt your feelings. You see what I'm saying? Instead of communicate, because they don't know how to communicate, come across and communicate it the right way. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, you don't like what? You don't like when your husband gambles.
Right. Okay.
Okay. But if you come at me crazy, or if you come at your husband crazy.
Oh, me. You see that?
If you come at me crazy, oh, I don't want you to gamble. Yeah, it's stupid. Instead of saying, you know what? Well, we have a lot of things that we can take care of. If you're going to gamble, could you just limit it to like once a week, or you know, when we got extra money, because we have a lot of things going on here. That's how you communicate. You know, it's not what you say, it's how you say it a lot.
Okay, and so
that doesn't mean that I lack respect for you, because I'm not. I just don't want to hear what you got to say after I tell you what I want to do. You see what I'm saying? So that doesn't mean I have lack of respect for you. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear what might come after I communicate something to you.
Okay. So it is still in. So you're saying that you would not be able to communicate because you're in fear of the response, the reaction of somebody?
Yes, a lot. Not just me. I'm not saying me.
Yeah,
I ain't scared of nobody.
saying.
I say, well, you know what I'm saying? I do what I want to
He's scared,
do.
y'all. He's
I
scared.
do what I want to do, for real. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, you do what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? We grown.
Right.
We have a respect level. That's how we communicate.
It's how you say things. You got to come right. Yes, and that's what Rondell is saying. Kia was just saying, it's how you say things. You got to come right. And that's what we're talking about with the communication. And that's what I say it is a respect, because you can say, like you said, you can say anything, but it's how you say it. And so the level of respect that you have for somebody dictates the way in which you say stuff, right?
Communicate.
The way you communicate it. And so it all falls down to, how are your relationships? That determines the respect level of the communication that you have. You got those people, prime example, we'll talk about some people that cuss, right? You got people that cuss. But when you're at church or you're at work, you know how to communicate in a way that you don't offend somebody, right? But you made a conscious decision in that environment to be sure not to use the wrong words. The thing is, I think we take our relationships outside of professionalism for granted, and we don't use the same respect that we do in workplaces and other things. We don't have that same respect for our relationships. in the way we communicate, because we know that it is in us to speak that way. It is in us to deliver it a certain kind of way, but in certain instances we choose not to. So that's why I say I feel like it's a lack of respect, because you respect the fact that you may have a job here and you want to have it tomorrow. You are mindful of how you say stuff. And so if you can
some people,
most people, we'll say most people. Nicole says sender and receiver, send the way the receiver can understand. Right. Exactly.
But that'll only work if you actually know and can. If you know how this person is. The only way you're gonna learn how somebody is, learn who somebody is through communication.
Right.
Okay, you're gonna have to interact to get to know how to know this person and know what they like, what they don't like, what'll hurt their feelings, what won't hurt their feelings, what's offensive and what's not offensive. But it's really through trial and error.
The key is saying someone might say something to you a certain way that they won't say to me. And that is exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying at the end of the day, you gotta have a certain kind of respect for certain different. It's a difference in your relationships. And so what I'm saying is that if you have a breakdown in your communication, is a breakdown in a relationship, because your communication is on point. We get to witness that in how you develop and move. You know, that's like a weed somewhere. It's like, okay, if you talk to me crazy, I get offended because I'm like, wait a minute. Who you think you're talking to, right? But that's the communication. That's me feeling like I want him to speak to me in a certain way. In the same way, go back that way, right? If I talk to him loud and out of control, he's like, well, who are you talking to? So it's all about the respect level that we have for each other, or how we feel at the moment dictates the way we communicate with one another.
Yeah, it does. It does.
You know, so your energy dictates how you communicate with each other. Your day dictates how you communicate with each other. And so what I'm saying is that as far as relationships is concerned, we got to be more mindful of not allowing the outside world or outside things to dictate how we communicate with the ones we love. The same respect that we'll give people who we don't have half the love for, we give them way more respect in communication than we do with our spouses or our family members or our friends. We don't give them that same level, and I want to understand where's the breakdown and why we do that. What is that about? Giadora says you must have self-control, and that's so true. And that's how I'm saying the same self-control we have for the business world is the same self-control we have to start forming in our relationships that are close to our heart. We have to treat them with just as much respect that we do with the outside world or the business world or the church world or the world that we put on high regard. If you put that on high regard and you treat that with a certain amount of respect in the way you communicate with these different entities or these different people, that is the same amount of respect that we have to start placing on our relationships, which means we have to stop taking for granted the people that are in our lives, the people who support us, the people who show up. We got to learn how to communicate better with those people because they have proven themselves worthy of a better understanding, a better communication. It's a level of respect, yes, and yep, exactly. And what do you agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
So, anybody out there, is there anybody out there in relationships who feel like when it comes to you and your spouse or you and your family members, there's a breakdown in your communication? We can give you time to answer that while I sip my drink.
There's a lot. It's a lot of breakdown is due to misunderstanding. Like you can't. I got a situation. You can't go on what somebody else tells you about me.
Right. Absolutely. And we're going to be real. Let's be real.
If me and you have a relationship, such and such can't tell you about me because me and you have our relationship.
Right.
If they do tell you something, you feel a certain way about it, then you can communicate with me.
Right.
If I feel somebody brings something back to me and I feel a certain way about it, I'm going to communicate it with you. I'm not going to communicate it with the next person. That doesn't make sense. And that's what a lot of people do, and it kind of ruins relationships, man. Yeah. These are bad taste in people's mouths. Like, I would never talk about people that I hang with and fool with every day to somebody else. Like, that's kind of crazy to me. And I wouldn't even, if I find out that you're around me, you talk about me to other people, then you're not going to be around me. That's just where I'm at in my life. So, I mean, you can take it or you can leave it. It don't matter to me because I'm going to be okay. But like I say, with that communication thing, man, you got a problem with somebody, man, you go to that person because you can't have a problem with somebody that you don't have a relationship with.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Right. Oh, and that is so key in what he said there. We got to stop taking on other people's problems as our problems. We got to stop treating people according to what they done to somebody else or what they done to, well, it doesn't matter. Everybody should get face value, and you give everybody a certain kind of respect, and you give everybody a certain kind of love, and you give everybody that same amount of attention. And at the end of the day, if you're going to have real relationship, authentic relationships, then you should be honest enough to communicate how you feel in those relationships. And so what this week is all about is about us starting to take inventory on our relationships. Think about, what are we doing? Thinking about our intentions to everything. Think about how we feel. Think about how are we communicating. Are we showing respect in our day-to-day lives in the people that are close to us? Are we showing honor? Are we showing just admiration for the respect that we have for the relationships that we are building with one another? Are we communicating on those levels to build each other up instead of bringing each other down? We have to start understanding that what we put out is powerful, and how we see people is powerful, and how we walk is powerful, and it's up to us to be able to always bring our best selves and always treat people how we would want to be treated, and always give people the benefit of the doubt. But there's a but. You have to know who you're dealing with and what's going on in relationships. And that's where the communication comes in. If you feel a certain kind of way, it is so important that you stress that. You do not allow it to build up. You do not allow it to be a breakdown. If you feel like somebody is harming you, or if you feel like you're not being understood, you owe yourself the right to be able to communicate and have a real relationship, a real conversation with the people that are in your life. And so if you have people in your life that you don't, you're not clear with, or you have people in your life that you're afraid to tell your truth to, then you need to reevaluate your relationships, because you should always be able to be real and true to who you are and whatever relationship you're in. And if you have to pretend and be a different person for everybody else, then you'll never discover, or you'll never be able to walk in your real life. In your real life.
That's called being phony.
Yes. Phoniness will not be tolerated. And so in order to communicate on a real level, in order to communicate on a transcendent level, you have to be real. You have to be honest. And you have to have a certain amount of respect for the people who are around you. We have to be receptive and open. Absolutely. You have to be that. You have to be that. Thank you, Theodore, for that. Because if we're not receptive and open, that's how somebody will treat us. You got to remember, you are the blueprint to what happens to you in your life. And so if you want certain things, then that's what you have to give out. You know, you reap what you sow. I believe that so much. You have to be careful how you treat people, because one day somebody's going to treat you the same way, and that same person you won't have to go lean on. And so you got to be careful on your communication levels. You got to be careful with what you do, and you always got to be honest. You always got to be honest in all your relationships, because honesty is what grows a relationship. And the communication with the honesty is what makes it so authentic and real. Because we communicate well. And I mean, and your language may be different. You know, some people scream and yell. That's how they communicate with each other. But they understand each other and they get it, and it works for them. Just make sure that whatever you're doing is working for you. Whatever type of communication that you're practicing, make sure that it works for you. You cannot be in a one-sided relationship where communication are not meeting at the same place. You understand? So if you're speaking Spanish and this person is speaking English, then you'll never get to understand each other.
Where you gonna get to?
And so it's up to you to be clear on the language in which you speak. It's up to you to be clear on what you want. And so you have to communicate that to people. You have to communicate when somebody is hurting you. You have to communicate when somebody is offending you. You have to communicate that. And you can communicate it one time. I don't believe in communicating it a million times. You don't say the same thing a million different times to the same person.
It depends. Some people don't get it the first time.
Yeah, but the question is, are you willing to stay around until somebody get the lesson?
More than one time to a few people. I'm not going to say no names, but I repeated myself more than once to a few people, and some people just don't get it.
Aina says, right, it is not fair to them that you blow up from letting things build up when you should have communicated in the beginning to nip it in the bud. Absolutely, and that's what it's about. If you value and treasure the relationship and there was a breakdown at some point, I do believe the first go round, it should be a very good you communicate. You explain to somebody what you like. You explain to somebody what are deal breakers. You explain to somebody how they hurt you. And you give them a chance to be better. Because I believe in anybody trying. So you give them a chance to show up for who you would like them to be in your life. And that you show up for who they would like you to be in their life. So now we're being conscious in how we treat each other. Because we communicated. Now, once the communication takes place, then there's a responsibility level that comes in. Where now that I know what you feel and I know how you feel, I'm going to respect that. And so that is where the communication turns into a relationship. Because I was clear on how I felt, you were clear on how you felt, and now we put a relationship because we have communicated and we understand each other. Now the journey begins. And so, in order to keep the journey going, you have to continue to communicate. You have to continue to talk. And you have to continue to be clear with whatever person or thing that you're dealing with. Because as you change and grow, so will the situation. And so will the communication. So you're going to have to always be talking because life is going to always be changing. It will not stay the same. And communication gives clarity. Absolutely. It leaves out all the confusion. You're no longer going to be confused on how you feel because I told you. And so now I get to stand on my feelings because I told you. See, the worst thing you could do is expect somebody to guess how you feel and then hold them accountable for what they did wrong. As long as you tell them first, then you can feel the need to feel like you didn't respect me. But if you haven't communicated to them that, then you owe them the right to fix that and work on whatever it is that you feel that has hurt you or hindered you. How much you want to invest in relationships? You don't have...
Let me give you an example. Like, okay, I don't like this person because I think that they don't like me. And vice versa. They don't like me because they think I don't like them. And at the end of the day, neither one of us have an issue or a problem with the other. Mm-hmm. But because we're not communicating, we're going on what we think, and instead of communicating this, you don't know what you don't miss with that person, what you could have built with that person. You don't know what y'all could have done together. Because in your mind and their mind, y'all don't like each other and y'all never even communicated that you don't. So that's what I'm saying. Like, communication can break down a lot of barriers. It can take relationships and things in your life and just go and just, you'd be surprised how far you get with good communication skills, man.
Absolutely. I mean, in every area in your life.
You can get, car, houses, loans, all this has to be done with great communication. Mm-hmm. You can't do nothing really and be successful in nothing without good communication. If you go on a job interview, you don't communicate good with the interviewer, you're not going to get the job. Mm-hmm. Vice versa. You meet somebody out, if you don't know what to say and how to compliment a woman, you're not going to get the number or the Instagram or the Snapchat or whatever, all the other stuff they got. So I mean, communication is so powerful, like people don't understand. I learned at a later age how important communication is. Because I was the type of person that I just did what I wanted. I didn't explain nothing to nobody. I didn't say nothing to nobody. I just do what I want.
And that don't work in a relationship.
It doesn't work.
It don't work in a relationship. In any relationship, especially a marriage. And so that was something that he had to get used to, is communicating. I'm not telling you to tell me because I'm your boss. I'm telling you to tell me because I'm here, and out of respect for me, I want to know what you're doing.
Ain't got nothing to do with respect, nosy.
That ain't nosy. You nosy. We both nosy. We want to know what's going on.
I don't ask no questions.
Lies. What it said, you don't have to agree with what was communicated, respect what was said. That is so, and that's absolutely right. That is exactly what you have to do. You do not have to agree, but you do have to respect the relationship. And so, like I said, if you have value on a relationship and somebody communicates to you that this is what this is, or this is what I want, then out of respect for the person, out of respect for the relationship, and out of respect for the communication that they gave you, then you rise up and meet them, right? You can't rise up and meet somebody somewhere you don't even know where they at. And so you gotta, I choose me, get to know yourself, and so that you can tell people where you would like them to meet you at, and so that you're not continuously being disappointed in relationships because you didn't know how to communicate what you want or what you needed or what you desired. Until you begin to understand yourself, until you begin to be who you were meant to be, you're going to have to start to learn how to communicate. You're going to have to find out what you like and what you don't like. And you're going to have to be brave enough to share it. Because that's the key. The key is not really you not being able to communicate. Is you being scared of the reaction of how you feel. You being scared if somebody's going to receive what you're saying. And what I want you to do is love yourself enough to be more afraid of what will happen if you don't stand up for yourself and communicate to people what matters to you. I want you to be more afraid that what will happen from you not being able to communicate something in your life. Because when you don't communicate, you get stuck in places that nobody, that you didn't belong or that you don't want to be. And it's nobody's fault, because it is up to you to tell people what you want. You teach people how to treat you. And so we got to stop blaming everybody else for what's going wrong in our lives when we can show up at any given time and let people know what we want, what we need, and what we expect. Because we got this mouth. We can communicate. We can say it. We can say it. So let's start speaking. Let's start talking. Let's start living. Let's start being clear on who we are, and stop making apologies for how you feel. It's okay to be you and feel the way you feel. And it's okay to require people to understand who that is. And if you don't communicate it, you get people misread you. And people don't understand you. And people judge you wrong. I don't know why I keep on doing that. YouTube. Communication. Thank you. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do my poem for the week.
That's all you get. That's all I get.
And of course, this poem is called Communication. Do you speak my language? Can you understand me? Have I been making sense throughout our history? Are you feeling confused by the misrepresentation of my tongue? How we can gently stroke you or cut you all in one? Do you speak my language when I cry out to you? Did you hear the stories of the pain I once went through? How about the language of my body? Did you notice I was weak? For it stood in for me when I chose not to speak. When my tongue was paralyzed, did you see me cry? From the pain I felt of not being the twinkle in your eye. Do you speak my language? Can you translate this pain? For being trapped with no communication can drive one insane. See, you are my outlet, a place for me to be free, to be understood for what's inside me. So I need your ear with the intentions of being heard. I need you to be interested in my every word. For the language we speak must grow from the start, because I want you to be like the beat of my heart. The language of love is all that I speak. So may that be the language in which you seek. And so at the end of the day, I feel like communication, language, it's all love. It's all the languages of love.
It ain't all love. So all communication ain't love.
But it's supposed to be. See, and yes, it is. Yes. Everything you do, you should have the intentions of goodness at all times. And if you're not having the intentions of goodness at all times, then you don't have good intentions and you're not speaking the language in which you were put here to speak. You were only meant to speak love, which brings forth life. And so the thing is, be precise in your communication and be clear in your intention, because what you speak should be of love. And if it's not coming out in love, then your intention is not good and your language is wrong. And so you got to change the communication in which you are using. We should all be using the communication of love. And people make their own interpretation about you when you don't speak up. And that's what I was saying. That's G-Door. That's exactly what I'm saying. When you don't speak up for yourself, somebody else will. When you don't say what you have to say, somebody else will. And so that is why you have to show up. You have to speak for yourself. And you have to be in good intentions when you're doing it. Because that is what helps people. That is what molds you. And that is what keeps you. Love is the most powerful language. Yes, yes. Thank you. See, G-Door. That's my... See, she got me. Loving you to communicate you. Not always love. I say the truth is an honesty. Yeah, Janine is saying it's not always love. I say the truth. She say the truth and honesty. So at the end of the day, it's still love in your honesty. See, honesty is not meant to be malicious or hard. Honesty just means it's your truth. And when you love yourself, somebody else's truth ain't going to stop you from being you. Somebody else's truth is not going to harm you or hinder you. And so when you're in love with yourself, their truth don't take away from who you are. It should make you better. Maybe it's some constructive criticism. Maybe it's something that's going to help you grow. But it should all still be in love. And you can tell in how somebody speaks and how they deal with you what their intentions is behind their communication and what they're giving and what you heard or what they're saying. So you can always tell by the way they move the intentions of the communication. And you can also tell if it's love or if it's not love. If it's connecting to you or if it's not connecting to you. That's right. Love, empowering, healing words. Yes. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about always using good words, empowering words. We are supposed to be communicating the best of ourselves. We're supposed to be communicating what we want for you, what we inspire. We're trying to unlock things in each other. We're trying to grow each other. And so our communication should be with the intention to inspire, to unlock something that's locked up in somebody else. And so if you're not communicating with the intention to inspire, you need to change your language. Change your language to love. Take it from hate. Don't be no communicator of hate. Be a communicator of love, because love grows everything. And so in order to do that, you have to love yourself first. And so I want us to all begin to communicate, to love one another, to lift one another, and start having positive conversations. Be in the circles of positive people. Be in the world of positive light. And always put that out there and make that be your new communication. And so I challenge you to change your communication. If you weren't communicating in a positive way, if you were having negative thing to say, remember, if you're going to put whatever you put your time and energy in, that is what will grow. And if you want your life to grow, if you want your love to grow, if you want your relationship to grow, then put love and love only. And when you feel yourself having a need to put something else, take a step back and remember this conversation, that love grows everything. And so make sure your intention is that which is of love and love alone. And so, do you have one last thing to say before I close us out? Anyway, well, I just want to say thank you once again for tuning in to Perspective with the Paulings on Tuesday night. I want us to remember our motto. I pledge to embrace who I am today, love who I was yesterday, and inspire who I will become tomorrow. I want everybody out there to love yourselves, inspire somebody else, and continue to grow in your life. And I want you to know that.
Can I give a shout out to a few good men? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Shout out. You can.
C Grill, Chris Grill. Shout out to him.
Shout out to Chris Grill. Amazing dad.
Shout out to LaVon Brewster. Love you, boy. Shout out to Mel Brewster. Love you, boy. Shout out to my man A-Rab. You know, love you, boy. Y'all some good daddies. Rick the Tick, good daddies. Vito the Don, good daddies. Y'all some good daddies, man.
Amazing. Listen, I say this all the time. No pun intended. That my husband and his friends, amazing fathers, and priceless. I can't even begin to say how they always got negative stuff about the fathers, but all the fathers that are in this circle, all the fathers that are around us, all the men that are his friends, I'm talking about amazing dads. And so shout out to the men out there. This is his Tuesday, so shout out to the father, shout out to men who's holding it down, supporting their women, building these relationships, and even if you're not with the woman, showing up to be a daddy, because that is the job that you got, and so you got to be the best at it. And so irregardless of where the relationship go, continue to be the amazing fathers that you are, because that is what the kids will remember, because love grows everything. Love grows everything. And so I just want to say I love you all. Thank you for tuning in. I will be going live this week from the page at the Lisa Nichols conference. So I'm excited. So expect me to go live on Thursday from the conference. Thank everybody who helped get me there. Thank you all for your support. But we're thinking about, we're ready to change the world. We're ready to start the movement and love each other, grow each other, and walk in our gift like we were supposed to be doing. And so I choose me, hashtag no more excuses, because I'm enough. And until you love yourself, tune in every Tuesday so we can pour into you, so I can pour into you, and so everybody that's on can pour into each other until we build ourselves to the level where there's no more excuses for us not to be great. There's no more excuses for us not to walk in our light. And there's no more excuses for us not to get the best that the world has to offer, because we have showed up for ourselves to get the best that life has to offer. We love you. And until next week.
Byron.
Bye. Oh, Byron. Mwah, mwah. You Randy. He's still doing shout outs. I love Goodos. I'm enough. I choose me. And I choose you too.
Doc, I see you, boy.
So thank you, shout out to Aina, Nakia, Nicole, everybody that's tuning in. Mommy, Chris. Shout outs to Toya, Giadora, Janine, Deron. Who else? Let me give everybody Sapphire.
All right. We love all y'all.
We love you all. Thank Miss Jeffries, Karen, Nicole.
Peace and blessings.
Everybody, peace and love. Until next week, love goes everything, so love yourself first. I choose me, hashtag no more excuses. You are enough.
Dr. Walker, we love you too, man.
I can't stop it. Thank you. He can't stop it either. We got the same fingertip.